On behalf of the Cabangan family and the ALC Media Group, we give thanks to the Lord for allowing us to continue the story started 30 years ago by my father, the late Ambassador and Chairman Emeritus of the ALC Group of Companies, Antonio L. Cabangon Chua. It is the story of how a small magazine got built on the strength of an incomparable friendship between a man of business and a man of words. This is the story of how they both cherished literature and vowed to nurture excellent literary works in the pages of the magazine. Through the best of times and the worst of times, we continue this story. This is the story of the Philippines Graphic.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Philippines Graphics' first webinar for 2022. March 22 is World Water Day, but we are celebrating it today. Let's talk about the water situation in the Philippines, a day after Pag-asa declared the start of the dry season. I am your host, Ann Ruth de la Cruz, Editor-at-Large for Philippines Graphic. To give the opening remarks, here is the publisher of Philippines Graphic and Business Mirror, Mr. T. Anthony C. Cabangon.
Good morning. Held on March 22 every year, the world observes World Water Day. It is an annual United Nations observance which started in 1993 that celebrates and raises awareness of the 2 billion people currently living without access to safe, clean water. According to water.org, a global organization working to bring water security and proper sanitation to the world. Nearly 7 million people in the Philippines lack access to safe water, while 24 million lack access to improved sanitation. This morning, our guest will update us on the country's water situation and what is being done to ensure that the country has a steady supply of water. Special mention goes out to Pakil Mayor Vincent Soriano, who will tell us how a fifth class municipality will help contribute to the water supply of Metro Manila. And we hope that after listening to this morning session, we will do our share in conserving water. Gaya nga sabi nila, ang tubig ay buhay. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, thank you, Boss Anton. For a change, let's start Philippines Graphics' first webinar with the Bueno Mano Prize. We will be giving away 3 prizes this morning. I think the first lucky winner who can answer this question will receive either a blender or an electric fan. All you have to do is type your answer in the comment section with hashtag World Water Day and then your answer. That's hashtag World Water Day and your answer. Please also like and share the webinar. Okay? The question is, when is World Water Day celebrated? Again, when is World Water Day celebrated? We will announce the winners later. Stay tuned as I still have 2 questions to ask. Let's proceed to the webinar proper. Our first speaker is a civil engineering graduate with a Master of Arts degree in Development Economics. To give us an update on the Philippine Water Supply and Sanitation Master Plan, here is OIC Undersecretary Roderick M. Planta of the National Economic and Development Authority. Good morning, Yusek Planta.
Good morning, Ma'am. Ma'am Andela Cruz, thank you po for inviting NEDA in this virtual webinar. Sir Anton Cabangon, maraming salamat po sa Philippines Graphics. Sana po makakaulit po ang NEDA sa inyo. Magandang umaga rin po sa ating mga fellow resource speakers at ating mga guests dito po sa virtual webinar. My task for this morning will be presenting the Philippine Water Supply and Sanitation Master Plan and what we've been doing since then. If the technical team could help me in my slides, please.
Hindi ito yung isa. Sorry.
Yeah, apologies, but let me. The first few slides is basically about the context or the backdrop, and the PowerPoint that will be shown in a bit starts with the SDGs, the Social Development Goals. I think most of us know this. If you could show the next slide, please. The 17 interlinked global goals, which is basically the blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. Shown in the right, if you're in the water resources sector, we think that SDG 6, this is the clean water and sanitation SDG, is the center of the entire SDGs. But let me now proceed with the game plan, the challenge. This is the challenge, the SDG, safe water and sanitation for all by 2030. Okay, next slide, please. Well, it's just basically a restatement of what's our resources in the sector. So basically, surface water takes up most of our water resources at 126,000 million cubic meters per year. And groundwater, which is the topic of this webinar mainly, is just about 13 or 14% at around 20,000 million cubic meters per year. And this is from our water supply and sanitation master plan. And we got this from information from our water sector agencies. Next slide, please. Of course, not all administrative regions are created equal. Resources varies across region, and depending on where you are, water stress is real. And we expect the water stress is expected to worsen because of population, urbanization, and all the stuff that will make our growth comes with it. More demand for the use of water. And as shown here, some areas would experience more water stress in the long term. Next slide, please. Now, this is about the situationer, and this is the latest figure is from our APIS 2020. It's basically on the water supply and sanitation nationwide. And we're again showing the variability of results across regions. Overall, it's 9 out of 10 families have basic level of drinking water in the country. But then again, if you can see in this bar graph that BARM has the highest percentage of families with access to an improved service level. And the variability again is showcased in its administrative regions. Next slide will also show that, but we're again talking about basic sanitation service level, also from APIS 2020, and this bar graph shows basic, limited, unimproved, and open defecation figures. And again, BARM is an outlier, even if we have nice, if you can say nice figures, 4 out of the 5 families nationwide. Next slide, please. 88% of families access to water sources classified as safe. Again, and 50% of families in BARM get water from unsafe sources. Okay, next slide would be an open defecation. And 3 million. You've heard Sir Anton mention later water.org data, but this is a Philippine data called from us by water.org. 4 million, the latest I think it's already 3 million, but 7 million is really a large number. And the global figure says that every 90 seconds, a child dies from water-related disease. It's not as high for us on an annual basis, but it's still a death to many on account of water-related diseases. Next slide, please. And these are this slide will show the entities, the institutions that would theoretically solve our water supply and sanitation challenges. But as you can see here, it's really fragmented. We have about, depending on whose paper you're reading, 30 to 32 agencies in the water sectors. This table is popularized by Dr. Rolla of UPLB. Obviously, with so many sectors, the long-term solutions will be hard to get by if we don't get this coordination, or we get the institutional coherence, so to speak. Okay, so what did we did with this context? Next slide would show the what we initiated at NEDA with the help of our institutions in the water sector. We started the Philippine Water Supply and Sanitation Master Plan. Started in 2017, and then vetting by institutions, Infrastructure Committee of the NEDA board in 2020. The KRA action plan, and then we launched it last year in 16 September 2021. This master plan also has accompanying data book and regional roadmaps, and is already published in our website. Okay, next slide, please. What is interesting with this master plan is that it has 8 KRAs. I think it's just showing 7 here, but I will be explaining all this in a bit. 8 key result areas that institutions will have to deliver something to achieve our 2030 targets of clean and safe water for all by 2030. Okay, next slide, please. Let me start with KRA1, establishing water supply and sanitation sector institutions. Basically, addressing the fragmented sector. What we're advocating is the creation of an apex body for the water supply and sanitation sector. What do we mean by that? We want a Department of Water Resources. The fact that I'm here explaining these things is also a manifestation of that. NEDA should not be doing this, but a full-fledged dedicated department which is in charge, or a focal institution in charge of the entire sector. And the game plan, if we because this will require legislation, if we don't have that, if we could have a strengthened NWRB, the NWMC, National Water Management Council, pending the creation of the Department of Water Resources. Strengthening the regulatory environment is also part of the institutional reform. And what do we mean by that? The Water Regulatory Commission. We have so many regulators in the sector, and we want one unified institution to address and the regulation and other management concerns. So we have MWSSRO, LUWA, NWRB, TIESA. We want a unified institution. We think that a good regulatory environment also encourages private sector investments in the sector. Clear and predictable regulatory environment. Next slide. Creating and ensuring effective water supply and sanitation services. What do we mean by this? We're basically saying that we need to capacitate our water service providers. Roughly, there are about 25,000 as of last count, and Executive Director Bill David will probably mention a bit about it. What do we mean by service providers? The high end are the Manila and the Manila Water. We have so many other water service providers nationwide. We want their capacity strengthened. The LUWA run water districts, the LGU run water service providers, and the like. Balancing water supply and demand just means that we need also to address the finite water resources that we have. So we could have some communication strategy for water demand management, and then some administrative guidelines issued by DPWH to ensure green technology and the efficient use of water fixtures. So lots of activities that can be undertaken under this KRA. Next slide would be on building climate resiliency. This goes well with the previous KRA. So it means that the guidelines, the criteria, standards that DPWs could prescribe could cascade to our regional, the lower level institutions, the LGUs, and six. We could just go back a bit on items KRA 6. KRA 6 is important because it's about the access to funding and financing. But again, but I'll go back to that. But 7 and 8 are equally important, managing data and information. Probably the lack of progress in the area is because we have not fully informed our decision makers on what's happening in the sector. But basically, it's a circular route. The data and information, we need a better coordination among agencies to ensure that policies are informed by the data that we have. Research and development is an integral part also of the master plan. Okay, so next slide would be on the price tag. Based on the notional estimate of the master plan, we need about 1 trillion to achieve the SDG target of safe water and sanitation for all by 2030. So roughly, that's more than 100 billion a year investment in the sector to ensure that. And the next slide is again an desk computation on what would the investment look like. Who will be our biggest sources of investors in the sector? And we're showing here that grant allocations, commercial grants, development loans, and private capital should come in. So for this big amount of 1.07 trillion. And the next slide is a cautionary tale in the sense that if you're saying that we need 100 billion in as an annual investment, has been the investment of the public sector as shown in this slide. Roughly on the high end would be a 7 billion a year. So 15% of the total GAA, 0.15% and 0.03% of GDP. So this is a far cry from the more than 100 billion needed for the on an annual basis. Okay, so next slide. Still, we're hopeful because we have this game plan of the master plan. So what we're doing right now is to have a proper monitoring evaluation of the master plan. We have identified priority actions and key tasks and milestones of institutions. So we have a dashboard that contains about 222 indicators. And we have initially coordinated with our partner agencies, institutions, and the development partners to make sure that these indicators get to be moved in the implementation game. And it's really a good opportunity for us now to have a good assessment of where we are so that we can properly brief the incoming team this coming June. So next slide would just be a snapshot of what it looks like. So we have a traffic light indicators which indicators are fully controllable by the department, dependent on other actions, and also which ones are completed, which ones are ongoing, which ones are delayed, which are the we have time frames. These are for the 8 key results areas, and I have said 222 indicators in all. But this is just for all government agencies. So my slide is basically that ask from everyone of us. Next slide, please. Because as I've started with SDG 6, we're saying that SDG 6 is a shared aspiration that needs collaborative efforts to achieve. The master plan is, while we think it's a comprehensive enough, it's basically it's government action. So what we're saying also is that we need support, not only from government, from our partners here, those in the virtual call, to support the proposed legislations in addressing the water sector fragmentation, meaning the legislation for the Department of Water Resources and Water Regulatory Commission. We're also helping in the advocacy for this water supply and sanitation sector situation there to more stakeholders, because we think that knowing the real score in the water sector would spur them to act to provide us with more investments to achieve SDG 6. Promoting financing principles is also part of the game plan with this unified resource allocation framework. What do we mean by unified resource allocation framework? It just means that government should be rational in allocating its own resources and look for partnership strategies. Kung sa mas madali pong to break it out po, sabi po ang po diyan is that bakas-bakas po lahat. National government should help po, local government, private sector should come in po kasi po as we've seen earlier, we need 100 billion annually, and the government contribution is just around at the vicinity of 7 billion. Napakarami pong kailangan gawin. And we're here at NEDA, we're part of the communicating this master plan to various stakeholders, and we appreciate, of course, the partnership of the greater public and the private organizations, and helping us refine the KRAs and the activities behind it. So, yun lang po muna. Maraming salamat po, and excited po kami sa Q&A na padating. Salamat po, Ma'am Ann. I'm giving back the floor to you.
administer and manage the country's water resources and water service providers, policy and planning, as well as coordination of water-related programs of the government. He is actively involved in policy discussions on chartering the water security roadmap of the country under the framework of integrated water resources management, and more particularly in addressing issues on governance, economic regulation, and optimization of water resources. He also plays an active role in the management of the release of water from the Angat Dam that secures water supply for Metro Manila and adjoining cities in Bulacan, Rizal, and Cavite, and irrigation for Bulacan and Pampanga. To speak on water supply, do we have enough? Here is Mr. Sevillo David Jr., the Executive Director of the National Water Resources Board of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Good morning, Director Sevillo.
Yes, good morning. Am I clear? Can I narinig ba ako?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Hear
sige.
you,
Thank you po.
sir. Go ahead po.
Yes, thank you to everybody. Of course, first I would like to congratulate Philippine Graphic Magazine for inviting us in the Department of Environment and Natural Resources to participate and in this the webinar on the World Water Day celebration. And of course, on behalf of the secretary also, I would like to extend our appreciation to Philippine Graphic Magazine for this kind invitation to DNR. So we will be presenting on behalf of the DNR the current the present water supply situation and they do have enough water to meet demand. So I will be providing some briefer on our current water supply situation, and of course later on at the latter part of this presentation. Next slide, please. So later on, I will latter part of the presentation, I will provide also an overview of the current situation of the water supply for Metro Manila and adjoining provinces, including irrigation being supplied by the Angat Dam. Next slide. So for a brief introduction of NWRB, I think it was also slightly discussed by Yusek Eric earlier. So the National Water Resources Board is one of the government agencies in charge or working on the water sector. So the NWRB is the government agency that is responsible for all the water resources in the Philippines. So we have the mandate in the management and administration of the water resources of the country. Next slide. So as far as the Philippine water resources is concerned, I think this was also mentioned earlier. So the Philippines receives on the average rainfall of around 2,400 millimeter per year. So this rainfall goes to our rivers and water bodies, various water bodies. Wherein surface water it receives next. I think can we click that again? Yeah, wherein around 126 billion cubic meters is being available as dependable available in our surface water, and around 20 billion cubic meters is dependable is available in our groundwater. Although we could say as the groundwater resources appears to be limited at this time, but I think we have to consider also the subsurface storage or water being stored in these various aquifers of the country. Next slide. So based on the JICA study, the estimated water potential for both groundwater and surface water in each of the 12 regions. So as for the demand side, the allocation for both surface water and groundwater is illustrated in this graph. So for the consumptive use, irrigation consumes about more than 75%, no? 70% of the water being allocated by NWRB for both for groundwater and surface water. And if you talk about if you include yung non, of course, power no will be the largest user, although it's non-consumptive, and followed by irrigation, and of course then to be followed by the municipal and industrial users. No? So the consumptive graph reveals that the total demand no in regions 3 and 4. No, so I think these are the central part no of development. They consumes no a lot no of the groundwater and surface water available. Next slide. So as far as the groundwater is concerned, no, based on the JICA study, there are we have the JICA study identified no, 9 water constrained areas no in the Philippines, no, which includes Baguio, Angeles City in Luzon, including Metro Manila, and in the Visayas we have Iloilo, Bacolod, and Cebu, and excuse me, in Davao, and we have Davao City. And Zamboanga City in and Cagayan de Oro in the Mindanao area. So one of the some of the issues no that are being identified no in these water constrained areas, there's a lowering of the groundwater level, and to a certain extent, no, the effect of saltwater intrusion is evident, particularly in the coastal areas, which some of these can be attributed no, to over extraction or of groundwater. And there is a significant no, water deficit, particularly during summer season. And some of the cities, no, in particularly Metro Manila and Metro Cebu, some areas, no, in these urban cities exceeded the safe field, wherein the recharge rate is below, no, the extraction rate already. Next slide. So with that, no, with that identified water constrained areas, no, in order to develop an appropriate and effective management of our groundwater resources. So we have embarked on a project on the groundwater management studies, or the preparation of groundwater management plan no, in these water constrained areas. So this groundwater management plan has been extended no, to other areas, which we believe are also experiencing no, issues on the availability and the sustainability of these groundwater resources. And along with that, no, critical also in the conduct of this groundwater management studies or assessment is we also conduct no, yung mga comprehensive water resource assessment. Ito naman po yung mga what we call the river basins or surface water, because I think we have to also analyze no the link no between this river system or surface water with the and its interaction to the groundwater resources. Next slide. So the currently no the aside from the studies conducted earlier, we have continuously no working on the groundwater management plan in some areas, particularly Masbate City, Laguna, and Bulacan. No? So likewise, no, the river basin assessment is ongoing also in Mindanao area, particularly Cagayan. Of course, the Cagayan River is in Luzon, and Tagoloan River in the Mindanao area. Next slide. So what are the key issues no, to the current water supply situation? No? So I think we have an issue on, aside from the availability no, of this groundwater, so we have to, we realize no, based on the previous discussion, it appears that we have available abundant water resources. However, no, despite this abundancy of water resources, no, these available freshwater resources is now being threatened, no, in terms of availability due to the following factors. No? So one is the degraded water quality. So this include, no, the saline water intrusion, salt water intrusion in some areas, particularly coastal areas, and likewise the pollution, no, pollution that has been affecting some of our surface water has been a very big factor, no, in the as an issue, no, on the availability of fresh water. No, of course, most of this is coming from the solid waste mismanagement or disposal, no, of the population. So another key issue is the what we call the over extraction or an unregulated extraction of groundwater, and most of it are unaccounted, and wherein some of these, no, are also illegally extracting, no, that of course the NWRB is doing pursuing, no, actively pursuing, no, the regulation of these unaccounted groundwater users. And likewise, so as mentioned earlier, no, the groundwater contamination. So I think our freshwater, no, resources in the aquifers or the groundwater is now becoming more and more vulnerable, no, to contamination, particularly from the pollution, no, being disposed, no, but both from the households, industries, and including, no, agricultural areas. And the unregulated extraction of groundwater is now becoming an issue, no, particularly in the slow recharge of our aquifers. And of course, the emerging issue on the climate change has been, as we all know, with this climate change concerns, water, no, is the mostly impacted, no, as far as natural resources is concerned. No? And of course, we have also the competing water users. No, I think everybody has in all our lives, water is being required, and they are experiencing some competition in various users for water. And I think, as you said, Planta already discussed this already on the lack of sufficient infrastructure to capture excess water. No, so I think this is one of the strategies, no, that we are pushing also, no, in as part of our water security roadmap, which of course we will be presenting, no, in on March 21 to our various stakeholders, wherein rainwater harvesting is one of the key strategies that we are proposing to capture, no, excess water, particularly in during the wet or season. Next slide. So, in support, no, of this initiative, no, on the securing, no, the water of our country, and of course, likewise in aligned, no, with the Philippine Water Supply and Sanitation Master Plan, no, key initiatives, the NWRB, no, is currently implementing some of these activities already, no, to support the Water Supply and Sanitation Master Plan. So some of these are the coordination and review, no, on the assessment for existing guidelines for the issuance of our of water permits and the certificate of public conveniences. So we are currently, no, implementing some stakeholders consultation, no, on these existing guidelines, and the currently undertaking the updating of the listahan tubig. So this is an inventory, inventory and dashboard of all the what we call the water supply, water service providers of the country, no, both government and private. So we are continuously doing this and updating and populating, no, the dashboard of the listahan tubig or the water inventory. And we are also continuing the conduct of reorientation, no, workshops of the listahan tubig to various provinces of the country. And likewise, the continuing development of groundwater management plan in the identified critical areas, particularly in those areas where rapid population increase and development is happening, because I think we have to consider currently outside of Metro Manila and of course some key cities, groundwater is still the major source of water, or particularly in the rural areas. That's why we have to continue the development or the conduct of this groundwater management plan, particularly in those areas that are rapidly growing. And this being complemented by the assessment of the 8 major river basins, wherein I think some of these river basins we can identify also some areas wherein we can allocate some available water for to various users, particularly for the use of our people in municipal or domestic uses. And likewise, this study will also provide which areas can shift from the groundwater source to surface water. So I mentioned earlier, most of the country still depend a lot on groundwater resources, particularly for the household users. I think in areas where groundwater is an issue already, the access to groundwater is already an issue, then we might have to consider the identification of alternative water source, including surface water. And likewise, some of the we have to make a review and revise the current protocol that we have been using in allocating water from the Angat Dam, and including the possible maintenance of the Angat watershed area. Next slide. So with that, I like to go to the how do we manage yung Angat Dam Reservoir, which of course which supplies the almost 97% of the requirement of the water supply for Metro Manila. And likewise, it provides water to around 27,000 hectares of farmlands in Bulacan and Pampanga. And it also operates as a power structure, providing around more than 200 megawatt of power. And it also functions as a during extreme event, particularly extreme rainfall event, as a flood control structure to protect the downstream areas of Bulacan and Pampanga. Next slide. So currently, the elevation of Angat Dam as of yesterday morning is around 194 meters. So this is lower, around 18 meters lower from the normal high water level of 212 meters. And of course, still around 14 meters above the what we call the minimum operating level of 180 meters. So however, the situation for 2022 is somewhat little bit different, because it ended. The starting elevation is around 202 meters, which is around 10 meters than the normal high water level. So we could say that as far as the elevation of Angat Dam, the current elevation is considered one of the lowest. I think based on at least for the last 20 years, we are experiencing one of the lowest elevation of the dam. That's why we have been implementing some mitigating measures to satisfy the requirements of our people, particularly Metro Manila, until the onset of the rainy season, which we are seeing to be happening between May to June this year. Next slide, please. So with this, no, the current we are still, no, we have to recognize that we are still, no, in the period of pandemic. So the demand for water is still there, no, and with this alert level 1 declaration, I think there will be an increase, no, movement of our people, and likewise, no, the increase also, no, in can we go back increase, no, in the use, no, of water. So that's why from the normal allocation of around 46 cubic meters per second, or 4,000 million liters per day, the current allocation is around 50, no, cubic meters per second, to support, no, the requirement of our people under within Metro Manila and adjacent provinces of Bulacan, Cavite, and Rizal. And as far as irrigation is concerned, likewise, there are slight adjustment in their from their normal allocation. So around before February, there was a reduction, no, of allocation, and and continuously, no, there is some adjustment, no, between March and April, no, to satisfy, no, the requirements of around 26,000 hectares of farmlands in Bulacan and Pampanga, particularly during this dry cropping season, which started last year in November, and and most likely, will end by the earlier part of April. So we have to consider that at below 175 meters, water releases from the turbine will alternately operate, to avoid overheating. Ito po yung sa mga main turbines, that supplies water to the irrigation. Next slide. So these are just the water supply outlook, for between March to December. So we have projected the current from the current level, of the dam, and based also, from the climate projection or rainfall projection of Pag-asa, and of course, inputting, some of the expert analysis, of the members of the ANGAT technical working group. So these are the projections, between March to December. As you can we can notice, the projected, end of the year elevation is around 206 around 207 meters. So this is we can consider that is below, the normal high water level of 212 meters. But we have to notice that with this projection, by the end of by March, by May, rather by May this year, so we will be reaching, the minimum operating level of around 180 meters. So with that, below the 180 meters, we will be prioritizing, the releases from the dam for the use of water supply for Metro Manila. So with that, we are hoping that there'll be some improvement, in the rainfall projections in order, to attain an end of elevation of the year, up around 212 meters. Next slide. So this is just a comparison of the 2-year elevation curve between July 2021 up to and December. So comparing this elevation, we could say that last year the current projection is appears to be lower than the actual elevation of 2021. That's why we have to institute and some mitigating measures as precaution to satisfy the requirements of our people, particularly for Metro Manila. Next slide. So what were the factors affecting the possible water shortage of water supply? So I think for this year we have started at a relatively low level, around 10 meters below the desired elevation, and we have experienced less rainfall in spite of the La Nina advisory from Pag-asa. Of course, it's raining in the Visayas and the Mindanao region. And in fact, we are experiencing floods in some of those areas. So, but this rainfall we have lesser rainfall in the Luzon area, particularly in the Angat Dam, despite this La Nina advisory, which resulted in its a relatively starting elevation of around relatively low at around 202 meters. And of course, the high water demand due to pandemic is also contributing to this possible shortage in water supply because of this continuing threat of pandemic. And of course, the operationalization of alternative water sources to secure the water supply for Metro Manila are still ongoing, particularly those major water infrastructures. These are still ongoing. So I think these are some of the factors with this continuing increase in population and, of course, development in Metro Manila and adjoining provinces. Then, of course, the demand for water is also continuously increasing. Next slide. So these are some of the mitigating measures that we have been implementing to manage the current situation. Is of course the reduction of water requirement for irrigation, and wherein this is being complemented by the utilization of shallow tube wells that could optimize the water being allocated and be released from Angat Dam, and thereby sustaining the requirement of the crops in Bulacan and Pampanga, particularly for this dry season. And the alternative water sources, the deep wells activation for Metro NWSS is still ongoing and already on standby, including the Laguna Lake treatment plants in Cardona and Putatan. So these are some of the alternative water sources that are on standby, and some of these are already operating, particularly in Cardona and Putatan areas. So in the alternative, the deep wells are also on standby, just in case there be some additional or augmentation of requirement for water supply aside from the Angat Dam. So these are also were already prepared. And the cloud seeding operations is also ready. So they will be conducting some cloud seeding operations anytime in the next couple of days. So we are hoping that these cloud seeding operations can also help in managing the limited supply, and of course, if possible, I provide some additional rainwater or rainfall in the Angat watershed to recharge and increase the elevation of Angat Dam. If not increase, probably slow down the decrease in elevation or water level of the reservoir. And of course, in partnership with MMDA, DNR, NWRB, DILG, and NWSS, the continuing advocacy on water conservation and responsible use of water is we are enhancing this activity. I think we can also visit the Facebook on this Oplan Tubig para sa Kinabukasan to provide also the current to provide some info on the current situation and some tips on how to conserve or water, or how to be more responsible on our water use. Next slide. So as part also of the water supply augmentation and contingency for the coming for this summer season or dry season, the NWSS to the water concessionaires are also implementing some measures to improve and of course provide additional water aside from the Angat Dam, which is around in this case around 200 million liters per day through the recovery of the non-revenue water, and of course the operation of the treatment facilities as well as the deep wells, and the recovery, no, yung backwash recovery from their treatment facilities. And of course, at times, there will be some implementation of network pressure management. So in this case, there will be some available water that can be recovered that could provide, no, some additional water aside from the raw water releases from the Angat Dam. Next slide. So with that, no, the question, how do we secure, no, the continuing demand, no, for water for Metro Manila? So the NWSS, no, who is in charge on the development of some infrastructures for the water security of Metro Manila, has been implementing the following. Next slide. So we have they are implementing, no, the Umiray Angat Ipo reliability. So what is this means? This is a combined, no, a combined development of additional water sources, particularly the Subag River Diversion Project, no, which is a tributary of the Umiray River. And of course, as mentioned earlier, yung mga continuing operation of the cloud seedings in the Angat Dam and La Mesa watershed. And likewise, no, yung as part of the demand management, yung improvement, no, of the conveyance system, no, that will allow, no, the recovery, no, of the some of the water, no, or to optimize, no, the water being released, no, from Angat Dam. So there is a continuing development of the transmission, no, improvement, wherein Tunnel 4 was already completed. And Tunnel 5 is planned to be completed by 2024, including the Big Ten of Baliches Aqueduct. So with that, no, additional supply can be recovered, no, with the completion of this conveyance system of the Umiray Angat Ipo system. Next slide. So we have also some short-term initiatives, no, like yung mga mobile treatment plant in Marikina in Cavite, and of course yung mga deep wells, no, in the Rizal well feed, and of course ito pong Calawis water treatment plant, no, in the Marikina River, no, ongoing na to. So which might be operational by the end of this year or next year. Next slides. So these are some of the medium to long-term initiatives, no. Yung of course some are within, no, Laguna Lake, no, yung East Bay Laguna water source, and then the Laguna Lake population water treatment. These are within in the Laguna Lake. These are planned to be completed by 2023 and 2024. And the new Wawa Dam bulk water supply project, this is in the Marikina River. So phase 1 scheduled to be completed by the end of this year, and phase 2, which is around it can produce around 400 million liters per day, scheduled to be completed by 2025. Next slide. So some of the long-term initiatives, no, yung new Centennial water source, the Kaliwa Dam, no, in Quezon, and likewise, no, yung of course adjacent to that, no, yung bigger river po, no, yung Cannon River, which can supply, no, if developed, can supply yung around more than 3,000 million liters per day, no, of water, which with these projects, no, I think it can secure, no, the requirement of water of Metro Manila and adjacent provinces, no, at least for the next 2 to 3 decades po, no. Next slide. So this is just a summary, no. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, no, so this if with the realization of these various, no, water infrastructure projects, no, it can secure, no, the requirement, no, of water, no, of Metro Manila, no, with this which is increasing population and demand up to around 2037, no, and even beyond. So with that, I think that's my last slide. I think thank you very much for your attention.
can win a valuable prize. Don't forget to type hashtag World Water Day and your answer in the comments part. Please also like and share our webinar. Question number 2 is, what does NWRB stand for? Again, what does NWRB stand for? Don't forget to type hashtag World Water Day and then your answer. Please like and share our webinar. Our next speaker will share with us how a small town in Laguna was not only able to resolve its water supply problem. The town will soon be sharing this valuable resource with the National Capital Region. To speak about Pakil, a solution to the water problem, here is the Honorable Vincent L. Soriano, the Mayor of Pakil, Laguna. Good morning, Mayor Vince.
Yeah, good morning. So kindly play na my video for my presentation.
Okay, Mayor.
To all of us, before anything else, I would like to extend my unstinting thanks and appreciation to the organizers of this webinar on water for inviting me as one of the speakers. I was asked by the organizers to share my thoughts and experiences as a local chief executive in dealing with water availability issues in our municipality. In other words, they are very much interested to learn what we did in Pakil that can be replicated in other areas to solve our water problems. It is for this reason that I entitled my presentation today as Pakil, a solution to the water problem. As a local government unit in the province of Laguna, Pakil is quite unique in that its territorial jurisdiction consists of two non-contiguous territories. Silangang Pakil comprising of 7 barangays and where the seat of the municipal government is located, and Kanlurang Pakil comprising of 6 barangays. Our town is relatively small. Its area of 4,650 hectares is one of the smallest, not only in the province of Laguna but also in the entire Calabarzon region. Its population size is also relatively small. Based on the 2020 census, its population size is just 23,495. In terms of income classification, Pakil is still officially 5th class, although it is very much qualified to be 3rd class because of our success in attracting huge investments, notably in the water sector and lately in renewable energy. Its major industries include agrofisheries, handicraft manufacturing, and cultural as well as heritage tourism. Water availability in Pakil has never been an issue. Unlike in many LGUs, Pakil is blessed with so much water. While it has no major river system, it has a lot of springs that up to now, a lot of our people in the Poblacion area are still getting their drinking water from the popular Turumbay Spring Resort. Indeed, water availability is not a problem in Pakil. Nevertheless, as our population has grown, people demand more convenience in accessing water for drinking, hygiene, and sanitation purposes. Suddenly, we are no longer satisfied with getting our drinking water, for instance, by going to the Turumbay Spring Resort and other publicly accessible springs. We demanded to get our water from faucets. This commenced the establishment in Pakil of barangay water systems or BAWASA, and later, the municipal government-run water system. However, their services were really not satisfactory. Their inability to offer good services evidently was due to their lack of technical competence and financial capability. This led to the establishment of other water service providers in the municipality like the Pakil Water District, Laguna Water, and for bulk water supply, Manila Water. Recognizing the necessity of improving our municipality's water system, the Sangguniang Bayan passed Resolution Number 109, year 1987, asking the Local Water Utilities Administration or LUWA to help our municipality in establishing the Pakil Water District. After 5 years, the Sangguniang Bayan approves Resolution number 128, year 1992, transferring the management of the LGU run water system to LUWA. A year later, a deed of transfer of the LGU run water system was executed between the municipal government of Pakil and Pakil Water District. When I became the mayor of Pakil in 2016, the general manager and the members of the board of directors of PAKWAD or Pakil Water District made a courtesy call to my office. With no hesitancy, I encouraged them to expand PAKWAD's coverage in neighboring municipalities provided that it will not affect their services to their current customers. Heeding my advice, in 2017, they started to serve Barangay Balyan of the town of Pangil. After 2 years, they extended their services to Barangay Siete and Bagong Bayan of the town of Paite. Right now, PAKWAD is servicing 2,741 households in Pakil, 264 households in Pangil, and 24 households in Paite. In Kanlurang Pakil though, PAKWAD services are limited to some parts of Barangay Kabulusan. Their inability to expand their coverage there is largely due to financial constraint to number one, employ the latest technology in looking for water sources, and number two, to lay more pipes. This made me invite a private water service provider specifically to have a presence in unserved areas of Kanlurang Pakil. In 2019, after the League of Barangays passed a resolution endorsing the inclusion of Pakil to the concession area of Laguna Water, a company 70% owned by Manila Water and 30% owned by the provincial government of Laguna, the Sangguniang Bayan immediately passed a resolution allowing Laguna Water to operate in Pakil. During that same year, when Manila Water received the MWSS Board's approval of the East Bay Water Source Project, which will be located in Kanlurang Pakil because luckily, it is where the cleanest part of Laguna Lake is located. My office readily assisted the proponent to ensure that this project will push through. Admittedly, the project will enable our LGU to generate more revenues, but more importantly, we will be able to help the National Capital Region quench its thirst for water. In 2020, Laguna Water started pipe laying and developing its deep water facility, while Manila Water started constructing its water treatment plant and transmission lines. The following year, Manila Water started to construct its reservoir and intake structures. Last February of this year, Laguna Water is ready to serve the 5 barangays in Kanlurang Pakil. This development effectively made water from faucets available in 11 out of Pakil's 13 barangays. The 2 other barangays, Dorado, which is on top of Mount Cebrano, and Saray, which is in the middle of Sierra Madre mountain ranges, have access to clean water springs for drinking and domestic use. We achieved this feat because of our emphasis on the importance of inviting private investments, especially on utilities. This policy is anchored on the principles of number 1, open competition, which basically offered my constituents options or choices, forcing service providers to improve the quality and extent of their services. Number 2, transparency, which ensures that information flows to my constituents, making them more supportive of our policies. Number 3, acceptability, which enables our LGU to implement our programs and projects more efficiently and effectively. And number 4, inclusivity, which makes our development initiatives accessible even to those who are outside our territorial jurisdiction. This last principle is very apparent when PAKWAD, during my first term in office, started to expand its services to the towns of Pangil and Paite. In the coming years, I also expect Laguna Water to do the same, to extend its services to barangays Asupre, Mabato, and Dambo in Western Pangil. It is worth noting that lately, more and more LGUs are sending some of their employees to visit the facilities of Laguna Water and Manila Water to learn how we did it. how we solve our water issues in so short a time. Of course, we are more than willing to share our experiences, how we did it, especially because of the notable outcomes of our water policies, which are the following. Number one, majority of our people can now get their water from faucets. Number two, lower cost of drinking water. There is now no need to buy mineral water from private water stations. Number three, improve hygiene and sanitation. Number four, sustainable utilization of water resources. Number six, lifestyle change. Now, more Pakileños are enjoying flush toilets. Number seven, more jobs. And lastly, increased municipal revenues. In fact, last year, even though economic activity slowed down because of the pandemic, instead of shortfalls in our revenue generation efforts, we surpassed our revenue targets by almost 150%. In conclusion, in ensuring that water is available to all Filipinos, we need to embrace and promote the following. First, we need to embrace the truth that not all localities are endowed with similar resources like water. This is why inter-LGU collaboration is very important. Those that enjoy abundance of resources like water should be encouraged to share them to those that are lacking. Second, the cost of managing water systems is financially and technologically high. Local governments, for me, by themselves, cannot offer their constituents quality services in this area, which make it very important for them to engage the private sector for investments, not only in terms of capital and technology, but also in terms of human resource development. Third, whatever programs or project a local government is initiating, it is imperative that it is acceptable to the general public in order to ensure its smooth implementation, success, and sustainability. Fourth, local government units must institutionalize measures that result to ease of doing business in their jurisdictions, just like what we did in Pakil. And lastly, local chief executives must exhibit tenacity in ensuring the successful implementation of their development initiatives, especially in the water sector, where individual communities in general are adamant in sharing their resources. In short, there must be inter-LGU collaboration, private investment, social acceptability, ease of doing business, and tenacious leadership in ensuring water is available for all Filipinos to enjoy. Thank you at mabuhay ang sambayan ng Pilipino.
Thank you so much, Mayor Vince, for sharing Pakil's experience and valuable resource. Okay, let's move on to our next speaker who could not be with us today. To speak on the Science and Technology Roadmap on Water Management, here is Dr. Enrico C. Paringit, the Executive Director of the Information Group of the Department of Science and Technology, a Philippine Council for Industry, Energy, and Emerging Technology Research and Development.
Good morning to all partners, representatives from government agencies and private sector, members of the academe and honored guests. Welcome to the World Water Day webinar with the theme Groundwater Making the Invisible Visible. We thank the Philippine Graphic Magazine for opening the doors for us to be a partner in this momentous event as we highlight the importance of groundwater and how we can harness science, technology, and innovation to make sure we have enough water of ample quality and making them more accessible to people. On the average, the Philippines receives an annual rainfall of 2,400 millimeters. This translates the total available freshwater resource to 145,900 million cubic meters per year, based on an 80% probability for surface water. A joint report by the NWRB, PEM, and others estimates that a groundwater recharge of 20,000 million cubic meters or 20 billion cubic meters per year. The same PEM report also mentions that groundwater contributes 14% of the total water resource potential of the country. This key figure shows us that vast amounts of water that we need to manage and optimize to their full capacity. In the 2018 to 2020 study of the UP Planades on the formulation of a settlements development model for new growth areas in the Philippines, identifies groundwater allocation as one of the 9 key growth drivers for emerging urban centers out of the 18 parameters that they've seen. This tells us how significant a determinant groundwater is to an aspiring community or a city in order to thrive or grow. However, the effects of climate change and extreme weather disturbances like drought and flood threaten the availability of useful water. Add to the fact that water demand is also increasing due to the burgeoning population, intensified industrial and commercial use. Groundwater also needs to be managed in a very smart and intelligent way and managed in a sustainable manner. It is in this light that the USTP Shared continues to pursue innovative solutions to address these pressing challenges. The USTP Shared has been at the forefront of supporting technologies to ensure availability of safe drinking water. We therefore provided support for the research and development in the water utility sector, which is subsumed under our construction sector. These innovations are guided by the needs identified by our stakeholders from government, the academe, and the industry. To ensure water security, we cover the different facets governing the availability and utilization of our water resources, anywhere from planning to assessments of possible sources to actual use of technologies to ensure that we have adequate and safe supply of water. Let me share with you some of them. Our scientists from the Ateneo de Manila University developed the Philippine Groundwater Outlook for the development of a robust set of methods, models, and frameworks for water-critical regions. The project enhances the real-time groundwater monitoring systems, models of regional groundwater dynamics, and the seasonal and long-term forecasts of groundwater levels. They also came up with an improved groundwater website, blueprints for other water-intensive cities in the Philippines, and knowledge transfer workshops. The same research group at Ateneo also conducted the development of groundwater resource management plan and monitoring system for Zamboanga City and its surrounding areas. They also came up with an operations manual, training handouts, and report of trainings. In partnership with the Department of Environment, Natural Resources, Ecosystems Research and Development Bureau, which has a watershed and water resource research, development, and extension center, the development of Artificial Groundwater Recharge Facility, or AGRF, has been developed for drought and flooding mitigation. This will be deployed in Metro Baguio to augment its groundwater resources and address their water needs. We also opened a new research center in the Cagayan Valley region that is devoted for water management. Dubbed as the Smart Water Infrastructure and Management, or SWIM R&D Center, this is a comprehensive R&D education and capacity building program that focuses on the development of science-based water infrastructure intervention for water-related hazards. The Philippines' main source of potable water, especially for irrigation and drinking water, are our dams and reservoirs. That's why we supported researchers from the Mapua University to develop the automated real-time monitoring systems for dams and reservoirs. This project produced automated water level monitoring systems, hydrologic models, and even dam break scenarios, models, and maps. This system will enable dam managers to forecast water releases and advise those that would be affected by whatever activities that are occurring in the water bodies. Under the DOST Cradle program, researchers from the Asian Institute of Management developed an enhanced forecasting model for complex water supply systems for the East Service area of Metro Manila. This project will enable water utilities to harness the power of data science and artificial intelligence to manage our water resources for Metro Manila. Responding to the challenges and the demand for water in the small island tourist areas, scientists from the Philippine Nuclear Research Institute and Ateneo de Manila University jointly conducted a comprehensive water resource assessment and management plan for the Nabaoy River watershed as it services the Boracay Island for its water needs. This project will be coming up with GIS-based maps and thematic maps for all geologic and water-related information, perform a comprehensive geologic mapping, groundwater surface modeling, and integrated atmospheric and surface water monitoring systems, and to come up with policies and recommendations for ensuring the safe water supply for Boracay Island coming from Naboy River watershed. Another joint project by the University of Cordilleras, Kalinga State University, St. Louis University, and the DNR ERDB Water Resource Research and Extension Center I mentioned earlier is the Upland Water Security Supply Program, or the Project Bundok. This program seeks to enhance the industrial competitiveness of the Cordilleras in the field of agriculture, tourism, and mobility through mountain engineering solutions. One of the program components of this project is the slope stability analysis and engineering intervention for the rice terraces and road infrastructure in the terrain areas. The second is improving the livelihood of MSMEs through cable-supported water and transport infrastructure and the management and development of the artificial groundwater recharge facility I mentioned earlier. The University of the Philippines Diliman researchers are creating an Internet of Too Big tool or an application which will design, prototype, and test a wireless water meter network for all its corresponding network management software. Events like Typhoon Ulysses that had happened in Cagayan River in 2020 has challenged researchers from the Cagayan State University to come up with innovations along flood control by combining hard infrastructure and nature-based solutions to effectively address the common problems brought about by extreme hydrologic events, resulting in excessive and prolonged flooding in the most susceptible areas in Region 2. The project integrated assessment and analysis of hydraulic assets for sustainable and resilient flood control infrastructure is aiming to use smart monitoring, remediation, and mitigation technologies to avert flooding within the Cagayan River Basin. There are two more projects on water management being led by the Isabela State University. The first is a GIS-based decision support tool for managing urban water infrastructure with stormwater intervention for smart cities. It also aims to develop a decision support tool for effective management of water infrastructure, design and construct urban stormwater storage system equipment with monitoring sensors. The other project is the Smart Water Control Infrastructure for effective irrigation management, which will employ wireless systems technologies using radio frequency module. We envision that our programs and projects will help reduce the number of Filipinos that still rely on unsafe and unsustainable water sources and those that lack access to improved sanitation. When water sustainability is ensured, we can envision a future where there is sufficient supply of adequate quality for drinking and sanitation, food production, and even for energy generation, as well as for sustaining a healthy, water-dependent ecosystem. The UST encourages our innovators to put forward initiatives that can effectively address our water problems. We therefore call on all agencies, businesses, institutions, and companies to be part of the solution. We enjoin you to adopt technologies that we showcased earlier and contribute more solutions by being part of the research and development activities or avail of our human resource and institution development programs to spur innovations. We at DOST are looking forward to seeing the outcomes of this event, and we congratulate in advance the organizers. Partner with us and let us continue making waves of changes through innovation. Again, we give our salute to the Philippine Graphic for this initiative to remind us all how precious groundwater is. Together, through our concerted efforts, we can fill in the gaps in this literally life-saving resource and sector. Thank you very much and stay safe.
Thank you, Dr. Parinit. Let's move on to our last speaker, who will speak about Philippine groundwater outlook. Here is Dr. Maria Eileen Lea Guzman, the project leader.
Percent of the Philippines' population uses groundwater for domestic use. However, not all areas of the country have been monitored to determine the quantity and quality of groundwater resources. At the same time, in areas that are monitored, data is not readily available. Data is measured sometimes on an annual basis, or if you're lucky, on a quarterly basis. Therefore, there is a need to determine the quantity and quality of groundwater resources in the Philippines. Data should be readily available whenever and wherever it is needed. At the same time, a good forecast model of groundwater should be available for the country to ensure that it is properly allocated and conserved. The Philippine Groundwater Outlook, or FIGO, is a 42 million peso project which runs for 3 years. The project is funded by the OSCP share for the Philippine constituents, which includes the Ateneo de Manila University's Department of Environmental Science and Department of Electronics, Computer and Communications Engineering, National Water Resources Board, Pag-asa, Ateneo de Zamboanga, and Mariano Marcos State University. The Natural Environment Research Council, or NERC, funds our UK constituents and includes Imperial College London and British Geological Survey. Dr. Andrew Bartwitt of BGS serves as the UK team leader and my co-project leader. The project is under the Philippines-UK Newton-Agham Joint Science and Technology Cooperation Program on understanding the impacts of hydrometeorological hazards in the Philippines. FIGO aims to deliver consistent, constant, accessible, and transferable assessment of climate, population, and land use change on regional groundwater resources and their subsequent influence on flood, drought risk, and socioeconomics. This project intends to carry out its main objective by developing near real-time groundwater monitoring systems, enhancing models of groundwater dynamics, providing seasonal and long-term forecasts of groundwater levels, and delivering stakeholder-focused reports of flood and drought risks and cascading hydrological and socioeconomic impacts. Our project focuses on two sites, namely the province of Iloilo and the province of Pampanga. Both provinces are among those identified in the 1990s as water critical areas. The near real-time information on groundwater quantity and quality, as well as the seasonal and long-term forecasts from the enhanced regional models, can be used by stakeholders to come up with policies, plans, and programs that are tailor-fitted for each area that will allow water resources to be managed in a sustainable manner that addresses the unique needs and characteristics of the different regions and provinces of the country. At the same time, it allows citizens to find out the current state of groundwater in their locality. Right now, the sensor system developed by the Philippine team is already commercially available through the spin-off startup company EnvironSense. We are also rolling out applying the lessons learned and the models as well as other products of FIGO to tourist destinations in the country. Finally, the groundwater module developed for students have been translated into different Philippine languages and will soon be available for download in the project's website. FIGO is but a small step towards the greater goal of understanding groundwater dynamics and the need to manage and conserve our water resources. The tools that we have developed in FIGO hopefully will be used by decision makers towards policies that will lead to greater understanding and appreciation of this limited resource. Through the project, we hope that we can restore our groundwater resources and teach Filipinos the importance of this vital resource so that we can manage it better and ensure that safe water is made available to everyone. At the same time, I hope that the quality and quantity of groundwater can be sustained for future generations of Filipinos to enjoy. Thank you very much.
Dr. Guzman. Before we move on to the open forum, here's our third question. Don't forget to type hashtag World Water Day and then your answer. The question is, Mayor Vincent L. Soriano is the mayor of what town in Laguna? Again, the question is, Mayor Vincent L. Soriano is the mayor of what town in Laguna? Okay, so we now move on to the open forum. Can we call back Yusek Eric, Director David, Mayor Vince, and representing Dr. Paringit is Engineer Nonilo A. Peña, and representing Dr. Guzman is Genevieve Mo, a project member of the Philippine Groundwater Outlook. Good morning, everyone, again. Uh, may I ask the first question? Yusek Planta, you mentioned earlier about the legislation to come up with a Department of Water. Do you have any update on this? Where are we here?
Yes, thank you, Ma'am Ann. Well, technically, hindi na po haabot sa finish line before this team ends. It got to second reading at the House. At the Senate po, wala pa po kami at the committee level.
So hopefully in the next Congress, push na po yan.
Yes po. That's the game plan to renew our efforts for this legislative advocacy.
There's one question here from the audience. I think this will be for Director David. Is it possible to use plastic balls to act as shade balls on water reservoirs to reduce evaporation by about 70%, especially this El Nino season?
Yes. So the plastic balls are being used, in other countries also, in reducing, the evaporation in water reservoir. I think it's possible. No? I think we just have to discuss that, with the operators of this reservoir, because we have to also consider, that the situation in the Philippines is the possibility, of extreme rainfall events. If we use this plastic balls, so we have to consider, the risk, that this consider the risk, considering the once there's some extreme rainfall event that will lead to spillage, and we have to protect, these investments if ever this will be considered.
Thank you, Director David. Sir, do you have any questions? Boss Anton?
Oh, yes.
Go ahead, sir.
I'd like to direct this question to the Honorable Mayor. Mayor, by the way, congratulations sa inyong it's a very successful story. Can you please give us an idea? Okay, you are now exporting. You're blessed with so much water, and now you are exporting water to other communities and also to water-starved Metro Manila. How much water are you exporting this, most especially to Metro Manila? Next question is, gaano kalaki ba po yung gagawing hydro power plant dun sa inyo?
Okay, thank you, Sir Anton. Basically, I think you're pertaining to the Manila Water Project, the East Bay Water Source Project. Right now, we haven't started exporting water to Metro Manila, but hopefully within the year we will start. Several millions ng liters of water every day will be sent already to Metro Manila because right now the deep well facility of Manila Water is already operational, but they're still constructing the phase 1 of their water treatment facility. So wala namang groundwater kaming gagamitin because they're going to treat the water from Laguna de Bay. So hindi kami masyado if your question is how much water are we going to share, as long as there's water in Laguna de Bay and the facilities of Manila Water can actually treat this water from this lake, it's fine with us. But the point is, we're more than willing to to host facilities similar to what they're constructing already in Canlurang Pakil to serve the national capital region. As for the other neighboring municipalities of Paite and Pangil, I think we have more than enough in East Pakil to serve thousands of households in those neighboring towns of Pakil. We are more than willing to share kasi we believe that water is owned by the Filipino people in general. And this is what is interesting about my municipality. Unlike in other LGUs na yung communities, they're very protective of their water sources. In my municipality, we are more than willing to share. Our sense of community extends to other neighboring localities. It's not we're not very protective, we're not very parochial sa aming bayan, and this is what makes my municipality great in terms of our effort to serve other localities. Kaya yun yung sagot ko doon, how much water we're willing to share. As long as other people need our water, we're more than willing to share. Now, dun sa water hydroelectric power plant project of Mr. Enrique Razon, I think they're going to start their application for permits, specifically with regard to the reclassification of their yung land requirements within the year, and hopefully by next year they're going to start constructing their hydroelectric power plant, and I think it will be operational by 2027, and it will be able to add 1,400 megawatts to the Luzon grid. So this is what is interesting again in Pakil. I think unlike in Kaliwadam and all these other areas and wherein they're going to construct huge water reservoir, in Pakil, hindi ganon kalakas yung opposition, because we believe that when we help other municipalities, we're enriching the entire country, and by doing so, it is also redounding to the benefit of my municipality. So we are only like 23,000 people, but we are helping other localities in terms of their water needs and in terms of their energy needs.
Mayor, huli, hindi lang kayo nakatulong sa bayan, kikita pa ang inyong city with this undertaking.
Yes, correct. Actually, by next year, I cited it earlier in my video. In the middle of the pandemic, while other localities have problems with their revenue generation efforts, in Pakil last year we had a surplus. I think we over. I think 150% of our targeted income. We actually collected more than 150% of our target revenue last year. So we have more than enough to give to my constituent in terms of our Ayuda initiative. So yeah, we are actually benefiting in terms of revenues also because of these private investments in the water sector.
Okay. Comment lang, Mayor, as you mentioned, tumaas po yung revenue collection niyo po. And then with these projects in the pipeline, with viewers listening to this and watching, baka dumami na rin ang magtayo ng bahay dun sa area nyo at dumami ng real estate property prices sa Pakil.
I always believe that my municipality, parang beacon kami of light, and nourisher kami ng entire Philippine society. So as long as we can help other communities in terms of their well-being, we're more than willing to help. And if they think that their lifestyle will improve by transferring to my municipality, they're more than welcome to transfer to my municipality.
Kudos to you, Mayor, for doing a very good example to other cities, that a good example that they may follow.
Thank you.
Okay, so here's another question from the audience here. From Maricel Valdez Davad. Hello, Maricel. Can the national government institutionalize local government fast-track success stories like what Pakil Laguna did to ensure water is available to all Filipinos? Who would like to answer this? Director David, would you like to try?
Yes, I think the role of local government in the management of our water resources is very critical. It's very important, in fact. No? And I believe all the good practices that are being implemented at the local government level. I think this can be if this can be replicated, uh, in other areas, I think. We have been doing that also with some of our projects. No, we are increasing the role of local government units in managing the resources. No, because as Mayor Vincent, the water is technically is owned by the state. No, but however, no, in managing these resources, the state cannot do alone. No, the managing these resources. We have to. It has to be a shared responsibility. No, both from the national and the local level.
Okay, thank you, Direct. Yusek Eric po. Do you have any inputs on this?
Sige, yeah, technically covered na rin ni EDBIL, but we're also working with the LG. Ang siguro pong kailangan nating ma-realize is that with us, yung sa listang tubig na ano ni EDBIL is that have about 25,000 water service providers, and really dapat maipakita natin why the places like itong palakad ni Mayor is better than others. So yung mga KPIs po, what are they doing well? That would really mean na parang iba-iba rin po dapat yung pwedeng itulong na national government depende and where they are in the glide path. Meron po talaga yung mga iba na kailangan talaga ng capacities lang kasi malakas na rin naman sila. So parang yung expanding po, yung mga pagtutulong nga ni Mayor. But some others are really baka physical investment talaga, which perhaps some other LGUs are not really well off. So it would require help from other aspects of government, provincial government, national government. Yun po yung mga pwedeng pag-usapan na namin as we transition to the new team po. So very exciting po yung kwento ni Mayor. Marami po kami napulot.
Okay, thank you so much, Yusek. How about on the science and technology side po? See, engineer, sir, how will you be able to bring your teachings and your learnings down to the level of the local government para ma-apply din po yung mga ini-research nyo at tini-develop nyo?
Yep. Thank you, Ruth. Well, in terms of the mandate, in terms of the USD, really, we've been developing tools and water resource management equipment, monitoring and sensors that can fast track the deployment of these technologies in other areas. Of course, we're limited in terms of research and development activities, but we're working with our mandated national water resources board in terms of deploying. In fact, the BID has been continuously supporting our research and development projects and supporting and deploying this in other areas. So we've been co-funding and co-supporting with the National Water Resources Board in deploying this underground water quality sensors and leveling. So we're quite positive in terms of our success stories, and we want to fast track this through various mandated agencies as well as the help of SUCs and higher education institutes that can also be worked with to have a technical support among the local government units. So we've been expanding our capacities and knowledge to the different universities and colleges so that the LGU would have technical support and backup in implementing and deploying these technologies.
Okay, thank you so much. Miss Genevieve, um, Dr. Guzman mentioned in the video earlier that your project is tama po ba? It's more concentrated in Iloilo and Pampanga.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there plans to expand that?
For the FIGO project, it's focused on Pampanga and Iloilo, but as mentioned by the video presentation, from the OSTP shared, from the GMP project, there has been already been sensors deployed across Metro Manila, such as in Marikina, Alabang, Malabon. There are also some already deployed in Cagayan de Oro, Bukidnon, and Zamboanga as well. And right now, there is a new project. It's like it branched out from these two projects and planning to deploy also the same or similar set of sensors with at Boracay and Naboy River.
Okay, thank you. Here's another question for you, ma'am. Yeah,
Ah,
to Philco. Are there barriers in the effective deployment of risk forecasting that you do when it comes to working with the government, local authorities, businesses, and local communities?
okay. So for the barriers, for the past years, I think the biggest barrier we had was the lockdown since we ourselves can't go out and uh, there were times that since these are sensors, of course technology sometimes needs some maintenance. During those times we had a difficult time maintaining since we ourselves can't visit the site. Um, Other barriers would be, I think, aside from the lockdown, mostly uh, the units we have talked with are easy to talk to, and if ever we schedule any, for example, seminars or trainings, are they're very active and they're very willing to join and give their feedbacks as well.
Okay, thank you. Here's a question again from the audience from Chris Galit. Question, sa panahon ngayon, safe pa bang inumin ang tap water sa residential at commercial? Marami na kasi nagpapakabit ng water purifier o bumibili na lang sa water refilling stations na parang tinatanggap na natin ang katotohanan na marumi nga ang tubig na dumadaloy sa ating tahanan. Director David,
Opo, no?
quality of
Yes.
water natin.
Yes, no. Ito kaya nga ito pong ano, no, one of the key performance indicators po doon pagka pinag-uusapan natin is yung pagpo-provide ng water supply or water service providers. Napaka-importante po noon is the quality, no? The quality of the water being provided by this water service provider to the consumers or to the public, no, at large, no. Yun po yung isa sa mga number one criteria po, no. Uh, na tinitingnan natin is has to pass, no, yung drinking water quality standards po na being na nire-release po yan ng DOH, no. So as far as the water service provider, this is one main criteria, no, in providing. And for example, here in Metro Manila, there were may mga constant and frequent monitoring po ng water quality, so that the water being provided to the consumers is of course past the criteria of drinking water standards, no. And it is the same, no, it is the same for all the water service providers that are being regulated but both by the government, LUWA, or the National Water Resources Board. And I believe, no, as far as the local government units is concerned, yung mga local LGU managed water system is the same, no, kasi hindi po natin pwedeng sakripisyo, no, yung kalusugan natin as far as water is concerned, no. Napaka ano po yan, kasi kahit sino po ginagamit yan, and of course we have to take care, no, of the quality of our water being distributed by our water service providers. But titingnan lang ho siguro natin, kung minsan kasi nakikita, no, yung mga water quality ay kung minsan nakakaroon ng concern, then it has to be bring to the attention of the water service providers immediately for the appropriate action. And kasi kung minsan, no, baka tingnan natin kung minsan nasa system or kung minsan po nasa loob na rin po ng kabahayan yung issue, no. So that has to be bring to their attention immediately.
Okay. Thank you, Director David. Mayor Vince, how's the quality of the water there in Pakil?
Yeah, I'm very much. I think I haven't reviewed the report of Pakil Water District with regard to their test of our water sources. But as far as I'm concerned, it's generally safe. That's the reason why one of the outcomes of our water policies is that my constituents are saving a lot of money because they need not buy their drinking water from private water stations. And I'm very sure that Laguna Water, it's already operational. They are starting to serve na my constituents in Kanlurang Pakil, and I'm very sure that they can actually drink their water straight from the faucet. I was assured by the Laguna Water of the safety of their water being sent or being given to my constituents.
Thank you, Mayor. Boss, you have a question?
Uh, Question, anyone of the from the government agency can answer this. Gaano mo kaseryoso yung water situation natin, supply this coming summer season? Are we going to see people queuing to get their bucket of water because of the supply issue in
Yeah,
the coming
if
months? Sir?
yeah, if we are talking if we are talking about Metro Manila with the current situation, no, we have it's recognized that the level of the dam, as mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, is one of the lowest. No, so that's why we have been preparing, no, for this situation to provide, no, to prevent, no, yung similar situation that happened in 2019. No, so I think compared to 2019, I think we are better prepared, as we could say, no, because we have identified or prepared some alternative water sources which are not ready in during 2019, like the deep wells and these portable treatment facilities. No, however, no. Despite that, we still have to be careful and closely monitor the developments, no, because the rainfall, no, the weather is still a very big factor, no, in sustaining the requirement of the dam. So as far as recharge is concerned, no, so we have to be ready just in case, no, there will be some significant development in the lowering, no, of our reservoir. But in this dry season, I think we are good. I think we have sufficient water during this dry season until particularly this summer. But as I said, the requirement for water does not stop during summer alone. No, it has to. It is continuous. No, so that's why you have to continuously monitor also the requirements in the succeeding months. No, that's why we still have to be prepared for that. No, and I think both the government authorities like NWSS and NIA, of course, in collaboration with our agency, have been preparing some of the mitigating measures, no, including the conduct of cloud seeding operations.
Follow-up question, Director. Ito bang nangyayari sa atin every summer? Is this is cyclical, and this will all happen every year
Yeah.
the rest of our lives? Or ano ba ang programa para ang ating mamamayan hindi yung they don't worry that when summer comes na kailangan well, close to hindi na gumamit ng tubig or magtipid. Ano mo bang what's the big plan here? Or ito na talaga ho ba ang ating na mangyayari na this is cyclical and every summer talagang wala tayong tubig?
Yeah.
Or kukunti ang tubig?
Yung cyclical, yung of course the weather pattern, of course usually during this time of the year there is reduced rainfall, no, and I think what has to be considered is we have to consider, no, we have to fast track the development of alternative water sources, because for Metro Manila, for example, yung supply niyan is hanggat lang halos nanggagaling, no? At around 97%. And ang Gangat Dam was constructed in the middle 60s, no, 1960s, and since then, no, of course, just imagine the population growth since the 1960s, and of course, there was the what we call the Umiray Tunnel constructed in the 2000. But again, no, the demand is rapidly increasing, no, since that time. And of course, the need to develop additional, no, alternative water sources, no, are there, no. Right now, the government has started implementing some through the efforts, no, of NWSS, yung development of new additional water sources, just like the some water projects in Marikina River and of course the Kaliwa River, no. So this will secure, no, the requirements for of our water, no, of Metro Manila and adjoining provinces. However, no, ang isa po natin titingnan din yan is we have to also manage the demand, no. Kasi po we can continuously develop yung mga water supply sources. However, yung water supply natin hindi naman po unlimited yan. Hindi naman po pwedeng pag nangailangan tayo ng tubig, we again develop the supply, no. We have to also manage the demand, no. Ito po yung pinupush namin with NEDA, no, to integrate also, no, improve or improve yung management po natin ng demand side also, no. Just like yung mga wasteful use kasi medyo no, I think we have to recognize na medyo malakas gumamit ng tubig ang Pilipino, no, compared to other countries, no. Just imagine na lang, Sir Anton, 2 beses maligo ang Pilipino sa ibang bansa, medyo limited, no. Ano lang po, just an example, ano lang. But that doesn't mean hindi na tayo kailangan maligo. But relatively, I think we are medyo malakas tayong gumamit, no. And of course, pagka malakas tayong gumamit, medyo yung iba doon kasi maraming nasasayang, no. So I think we have to really strengthen, no, yung management natin ng demand, no. And I think, no, this will also sustain, no, yung mga available resources natin, no, even continuing because the demand is increasing, no, population, development. So hindi wala akong katapusan, no, yung demand for water. So that's why ang isa ko talaga nating binibuild up na strategy sa ngayon, of course, to as another side, no, of water resource management, no, yung instead of yung mga supply na lang ang tinitingnan natin is yung we also have to manage the demand side.
Comment there is siguro isa is to how you manage the rainwater. Maybe it should be mandated to development of new subdivisions or construction of houses wherein they should put up a reservoir to store that rainwater so that when the time of this season you can use that for not just drinking water but for cleaning your flushing toilets or some uses.
Yeah.
Para hindi naman mo magamit yung tubig na pang-inom na pang-linis lang sa banyo o
Tama.
And I heard that in Singapore they have in cities like that they have constructed big cistern to store rainwater and just use that for something else, not just drinking water. Para maibsan din yung pangangailangan sa tubig na malinis na pag.
Yeah, I think that's part of our Philippine sanitation, water supply sanitation master plan. Yusek Eric, can you can you elaborate?
Thank you, Doc Bill. Thank you, Sir Anton. Yeah, kailangan po talaga yun. Siguro, pero ang sabi nga po natin, whole of country approach po eh. Kaya nga kami po ni ED Bill, sabi natin kung meron nga tayong mga energy conservation, baka pati meron rin po tayong mga rating ng agencies dun sa mga sa tubig din. Kasi kung at least sa gobyerno, yung mga rainwater harvesting, mapasok dyan, pati yung mga facilities natin, yung mga fixtures natin, yung may at least na natitipid rin po natin yung gamit natin, makakatulong rin po. So parang government is really walking the talk rin pagdating po din po sa tubig. So yung person doon parang kasama nga po sa master plan pero yun pa, tatawirin pa po natin yung implementation. Yun po yung kwento.
Do
Yeah.
you see some resistance on the roadblocks of that particular idea where you can mandate cities or especially when they're constructing new subdivisions to put up their own cistern or storage of rainwater so that they can use it for future uses instead of us consuming drinking water for drinking. May hadlang po ba magawa ito?
Siguro po ano no, I think sabihin na lang natin na water is life no. Is not ano no, yun ang ano natin. So if you think no, ay tanungin na lang ng tao, ng tao, ano bang tingin mo sa tubig no? Kung water is life, then you have to share your ano no, to do your part no in managing and of course these resources no. And as far as mandating yung this kind of initiatives no, I think malaki po ang magiging papel no ng local government unit dito. I think later on Mayor Vince can elaborate also on that. However, on the part po ng government, sa national government, we are of course with Yusek Eric, with NEDA, we are also developing some action no proposals no to do that no. But however, the local government malaki po ang papel na pwedeng magawa diyan.
Yun na lang. Mayor, address ko po ang tanong sa inyo. Itong panahon ng summer, wala naman pong problema sa sa supply ng drinking.
Pag summer, hindi kami nagkakaroon pa rin ng problema kasi hindi naman nababago yung lakas ng mga springs namin dito, especially in Eastern Pakil. So in Kanlurang Pakil with the Laguna Water sa deep well project, I think we can sustain the supply side ng water sa 5 barangays in Western Pakil. So we don't have any problem even though summer na. Padating na ang summer.
Okay. I have a question here from the editor-in-chief of Philippines Graphic, from Ms. Psyche Rojas Mendoza. What has happened to the plan to use Laguna Dibay as potable water source for Metro Manila? It was proposed as early as 1986.
May ongoing na po yan no. I think yung the Manila just developed no around sa ngayon po around 300 million liters per day no of capacity treatment plants dyan with an additional 150 no in the next probably this year. And then sa other side no sa isla side po ng Laguna Lake adyo po yung Cardona treatment facility with a capacity of around 100 million liters per day. And as Mayor Vince kanina said no yung adyan po yung East Bay project no of Laguna Manila Water being developed no or constructed, which I believe which will be ready no in the next couple of years also. So I think ginagamit na po no yung Laguna Dibay as a source of potable water no. At ang ano lang po dito, we have to consider that if we can increase no the use of Laguna for potable water because we have to consider also the other users no in the area no like the fishermen kasi ginagawa pa rin ng ano yan part of the productivity of the farmers in Laguna fisher folks in Laguna po no. So ginagamit na po yan. I think we have just to consider we can still increase no the capacity of water that can be used no from the Laguna Dibay.
May idadagdag lang ako dun sa sagot ni Sir Sevillo. Basically, yung tapos pa lang ng Manila Water is the well field. It is capable of producing 15 MLD in their facilities in Western Pakil. They're already constructing phase 1 of their water treatment facility under this East Bay Water Source Project. And I want to share to all of you that our Sangguniang Bayan is already dealing with the application to reclassify additional 5 to 6 hectares of land in Western Pakil for the phase 2 of this East Bay Water Source Project. So it will actually host the 200 MLD facility, which we hope Manila Water will start to construct next year. So within the next, Mr. Sevillo is correct, within the a couple of years, maybe that facility of Manila Water can already supply 250 MLD yeah, to the National Capital Region. Luckily, I cited it earlier that East Bay is actually the cleanest part of Laguna de Bay. So if there are other private corporations like Manila who wish to explore the possibility of investing in this part of the Laguna de Bay region, you're more than welcome. I believe that their Potatan facility, nagkakaroon sila ng problema because of the really bad quality of water in that part of Laguna de Bay. They can actually save a lot of money in in treating water if they're going to put up their water plants, water treatment facilities in East Bay part of Laguna de Bay. So again, I talked to a lot of mayors in this part of our province, and they're more than willing to also host facilities like what Manila Water is constructing in Western Pakil.
Thank you. There's a follow-up question from Ms. Saiki. There was a very strong campaign against the use of Laguna Lake as potable water source in the 90s. The main objection was pollution. Pollution being the presence of human waste and the presence of chemicals in the water. How was this addressed? And,
Yeah, I think the water quality of Laguna de Bay, no, is a challenge as far as raw water or potable use is concerned. No? Kaya nga po, yan, no, they have to develop yung mga treatment, no, facilities, no, to make, no, those Laguna water usable mo for as potable water. And as Mayor Vincent, yung sa East Bay medyo mas malinis, but still, no, kailangan pa rin mo talagang i-treat, no, sa water quality issue. But meron po mga available technologies, no, to treat the quality of water in the Laguna de Bay. Ang titingnan lang ho natin is of course kung as much as possible yung economy of scale, no, in developing and these treatment facilities na hindi naman po masyadong maka-affect, no, dun sa mga kababayan natin as far as yung taripa naman is concerned, no. But pwede, na po yan, it has been is being done, no, but the challenge is still a challenge in water quality, but right now po nakakahabol na rin yung technology in addressing the water quality.
thank you. Here's a question again from Ms. Maricel Valdez-Dabat. Is it practical to desalinate seawater in the Philippines? Would like to comment on this. Baka si Engineer Penny, is this possible?
Well, actually, there are already water utilities in some areas of the country.
Ano yun, sir? Sorry, we can't hear you.
Actually, there are already water utilities in some areas in the country that are already tapping seawater and using some. Example, in Cebu, I think they already have some desalination facility. Of course, the technology is, in terms of potable water production is quite high, but the investment in terms of recovery, I think it's viable in the areas where the water supply is limited. They are already in the country using this.
Another comment from Krista. Please comment on this. Ang dami po nating water-related laws pero kulang daw sa enforcement. Pagtungkol sa problema katulad ng inadequate resources, poor database, and weak cooperation among different agencies ng LGUs. What can you say about this, Yusek, Eric?
Tutulungan ako ni Doc Bill. ang ano po talaga kasi is that yung may mga specific mandato po yung mga agencies natin eh. So parang for the yung ang sagot ko dito kasi babalik ulit po tayo sa fragmentation eh. So parang mahirap kasing mag-enforce yung na wala naman sa mandato niya yung mga Tapos ano po, nagkakabit-kabit po lahat yan. Yung sinasabi natin kunyari drinking water standards, hindi naman po sa NWRB yun, sa DOH po yun. So parang ang daming susuungin na mga challenges yung mga water service providers natin. Maliban pa sa mga regulator, sa financing, ganun po. So parang yung pagdating talaga dyan, nagsasamot-saring problema, talagang nakakalimutan na lahat yung overall holistic na diskarte. So may ano po, may batas na tama rin naman po ito, pero toka po ni NWRB itong isa, toka ni Luwa yung isa, toka ni wala po yung namamahala sa lahat na. So pag uupo kami po ng mga government agencies, marirealize namin po na sabi namin ang hirap siyang andon, dapat coordinated, concentrated effort. Mahirap po yun na sa totoong buhay kung maraming ahensya.
Thank you. Yusek.
Doc Bill, baka tulungan mo ako ng ano doon kasi WRB, marami rin sa'yo yan.
Opo, no, of course, na-realize na po natin itong mga issues, no. I think we agree, no, dun sa comment, no. But sinasabi po natin, ano po ang ginagawa ng gobyerno, no, or ng mga government authorities to address this, no. As stated by Yusek Eric po kanina, no, meron po tayong sinusulong, no, na to address yung issue ng fragmentation, no, the creation or establishment of the Department of Water and the Water Regulatory Commission. Ito po yung mga panibagong batas na sana po this will address, no, yung fragmentation issue, no. But yung sa database naman po, I think currently meron yan po naintindihan po natin yan. We have initiative with the NEDA, no, to improve or improve yung pagmamanage ng mga information on water, no, resources. So meron po kaming kasalukuyang proyekto, no, na ini-implement at least to consolidate po, no, yung mga water resources that are information that are available in all these government agencies, no. Medyo kalat-kalat po kasi yan, and we know that water is a complicated, ano po yan, no? Komplikadong resource po yan, no? Sabi nga natin, basta may butas, pinapasok ng tubig, no? Yung ganun po komplikado ang tubig, and I think the need, no, to manage, no, yung resources. Kaya po napaka-importante nung R&D dito, no, yung research sa mga academic institutions, which is also likewise a key strategy, no, doon sa Philippines Water Supply and Sanitation Master Plan, yung R&D po, no, on water resources. Kasi nga po, the more we have to know, no, kailangan malaman ho natin, no, marami tayong information sa tubig kasi napaka-komplikado po at hindi lang po yan technical solution, no. It's not yung mga problema natin sa tubig, hindi lang po technical ang solution diyan, no. It is a solution po yan. It's naging political, social, economic, no. So ganun po kakomplikado ang tubig na marami pong stakeholders or ang kinakailangan to really resolve, no, yung issue natin sa water. Kaya nga po meron tayong initiative to kailangan pagsamahin, no, yung mga ahensya na to, no, to at least baka in that case po ay yung issue ng governance ay partly, no, ma-address po natin. It might not solve totally yung problem natin, but it can be a good start po.
Okay. Mayor Vince, your thoughts on this, please?
Sa akin, simple lang yan. Tama yun, ang daming water-related laws in our country, pero needed naman yan to ensure the quality of na water we are using in this country. But more importantly kasi yung cooperation ng local government units, I think that is more critical, the inter-LGU collaboration on how we are supposed to utilize our water resources. So ginawa na namin, we already have a template. They can use the template of Pakil in ensuring that yung communities natin as well as the neighboring communities or localities may enjoy rin nila yung water resources natin kasi naman yan protected under our constitution na talagang may-ari niyan ang buong bansa natin ng water resources natin. So ang pinaka-critical naman when it comes to LGU cooperation is leadership. I believe ang dami yung pag-uusapan pero it boils down to one thing, yung leadership dun sa local government units on how these local leaders would cooperate with the national agencies in ensuring that water really is available for everyone to enjoy. Kaya yung tama yun yung weak cooperation pero sa cooperation to make it successful kailangan talaga ng good leadership on the part of the local government officials. Not really on the national agencies lang kasi ang regulatory environment ang meron ng national agencies. Yung local government units at the forefront, kailangan nilang ma-implement lahat ng yan. Kaya they really need to cooperate with the national agencies.
Thank you. Okay, so here from Dennis Guevara. To our speakers, do you think po ba na napapanahon na talaga na mabuo at may isabatas na ang Department of Water? Yusek Eric, di ba na-mention ako na
Opo, technically po yung yung pag-aaral po yun, 1998. Ang earliest po na nakita namin, actually 1996 po na paper po. Mga marami na pong mga pag-aaral yan, technical, independent, even academe, even government. Nagko-converge po siya. Nung unang panahon po, ang naging bago na lang po ngayon is that nung mga first few years, mga 1990s, pinagsasama pa po yung yung water resources, yung department at saka yung regulatory na institution, isang grupo. Pero ang nakita na po natin kasing model na nag-work naman po yung sa energy sector, yung meron po tayong DOE, meron po tayong ERC. Ganun po yung what we want to achieve in the sector. Meron pong department na magtataguyod po ng ano yung kailangan gawin sa sector at meron pong mga regulatory na babantay sa water supply and sanitation, which is the WRC. So we could supply yung yung Philippine Graphic po kung ano pang mga studies po to. Talagang po yun, well thought out na po na kailangan po siya. Siguro ang ano lang po ngayon diyan is how to staff it. Yung parang ilang USEC, ilang ASEC, paano po, kanino pong grupo dapat itong isang aspeto na kinuha natin sa DPWH, na kinuha natin sa DNR, ganun na lang po yung mga nitty-gritty sa pinag-iisipan. But I think it's really over thought na po.
Thank you, Yusek. Director David, what do you think?
Opo, I think kaisa po natin ang NEDA rito, sabi nga ni kasi kasama po tayo doon sa pag-aaral at pag-analyze po kung kinakailangan na talaga, kung yung pangailangan po ng isang ahensya sabi nga ho natin is to minimize po yung at mawala po yung mga tinatawag nating overlap sa mga functions po ng mga iba-ibang sangay ng pamahalaan at to harmonize po yung performance ng mga programa, and in a way siguro natin baka ma-optimize din natin yung mga resources of the government involved in managing our water resources, ay baka mas advantageous po talaga to have these water related agencies work under a single department at in that case po but down the line so siguro hanggang sa local government units ay hindi rin po mahihirapan yung coordination kasi isa na lang po ang kausap.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Vince, your views on this, please.
I support the creation of the Department of Water, but more critical for me ay yung aspeto pa rin ng that the president should put the right people in this department kasi we have a lot of departments and some of those actually manning these departments of the national government, sometimes they are lacking in terms of accomplishment, in terms of performance. So I just hope that when the time comes, now we already have the Department of Water, the president will put the right people to ensure that we will be able to protect our water sources and every Filipino will enjoy this water resource.
Engineer Peña, on the DOST side, is a Department of Water a good idea?
Sa amin naman po, we considered water as a basic need. So dapat po bigyan sa pansin. At the same time, we're facing the climate change projection. But water management will be a major issue that we need to manage. So dapat po mapaghandaan yan. At na-experience na po natin yung events, yung drought, flooding, dapat po nagkaroon talaga ng isang departamento na nakapag-tuon ng pansin as far as the water management.
From the on the academic side, Ms. Genevieve, would the academe support the Department of Water?
Uh, I I think I'll be answering more on my
On
perspective.
your personal level, yeah.
Yes, on personal level, I think yes. Uh, Dapat magkaroon na rin po. Parang sasagutin rin po ako parang as a citizen na rin po na parang dapat magkaroon po ng separate po na mag-handle din ng laws, ng mga policies po regarding water resources kasi napakarami din po niya dito sa bansa po. But right now, it's actually good po na parang nagkakaroon po ng projects, parang government collaborating with the academe in order to address some of the issues din po na hinarap natin with regards to, for example, yung mga water shortages, mga ganun po.
Thank you, Ms. Genevieve. Folks, do you have any other questions before I ask them to turn? Okay, sir. So thank you once again, our esteemed guests, for joining us during this webinar. I'd like to ask you for your final message before we go. Miss, can we start with you, Ms. Genevieve? Your final message to our audience.
Okay. So on behalf of the Philippine Groundwater Outlook team, we would like to thank everyone for watching and for, of course, for the organizers for inviting us to share or to let us share din yung what yung the academe can do when it comes to research din and collaborations with for example, stakeholders, governments, with regards to some issues in the country. Again, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Engineer Peña, your final words, please.
Yeah, well, for the science community, to the Department of Science and Technology, well, we're here to provide SMT initiatives and intervention to help our managing our water resource. Well, so we've been calling for proposals and identifying what are the needs as far as the water management sector is concerned. And we'll be working and with our SUCs and HEIs to address this problem. And we're hoping that this translated into deploying all of these technologies to our LGUs, to our grassroots level, so that management of our water resources can eventually be realized up to the grassroots level. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Peña. Mayor Vince, your final message.
Well, consistent ang message ko, no? And I've shown it sa maraming mga fora na even small municipalities like Pakil can contribute significantly to national development. So siguro sa sector ng patubig, tingnan nyo rin yung experiences namin what we are doing in the local government units. Kasi the national agencies and the academe and all these other stakeholders can learn a lot from the experiences of local government units. So try to to visit and to interact with local government units. To know their success stories, especially in the sector of water. So that's it, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this webinar.
Thank you, Mayor Vince. Director David.
Yes, thank you, Anne, and thank you to the Philippine Graphic Magazine for organizing this webinar. As you can see, from this webinar, yung mga iba-ibang sector, ay meron ho talaga tayong kinalaman sa tubig at meron tayong magagawa. And I think both from the national and to the local government units, including the academe. So I think we have a various role to play in managing our resources. As exemplified by Mayor Vince in Pakil, sinasabi nga niya yung water is a shared resources. It's a shared resources. Hindi yung talaga pag-aari ng isang individual or isang sa atin po lahat yan sa estado. And I think the need for us to strengthen yung collaboration ng mga various agencies or sectors of the society in securing yung mga tubig natin para sa mga benepisyo ng mga kababayan po natin. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Director David. Yusek Eric, your final message, please.
Yes po, Maman. Pasasalamat rin po sa Philippines Graphic for inviting us to be a part of this today's activity. Ang saga ng amin po naman is again yung never losing sight of the goal po natin. Ano po pong gusto natin po mangyari? And the SDG 6 is pointing us to that direction. Universal access to safe water and sanitation for all. No one left behind po ang prinsipyo. Kailangan po nating lahat ng nararamdaman ng isang one is sa lahat po we experience the same level of development. Ganun po yung game plan. So we're talking about so many operational things. Fortunately po, yung ating pong national government ay nag-uusap ng mas matindi dito sa usaping tubig and we have come up with this Philippine Water Supply and Sanitation Master Plan. We're also working for this National Water Security Roadmap na led naman po ng NWRB. Marami pong nangyayari pero ito po yung paulit-ulit na sinasabi ng ating mga resource speakers rin po natin, yung collaboration po ng whole of government kasi even the master plan says that government cannot do it alone. Kailangan po natin ng mga investors, kailangan po natin ng private sector, kailangan po rin natin ng mga LGU. So we're so happy that we're here again to explain this challenge before us and we hope that our continued collaboration will continue. At yun lang po naman sa muna. Salamat po.
Thank you, Yusek Eric. And before we go, here just a few shout outs. Thank you to Eugene Lirio Texon. Thank you, Hazel Uy. Thank you, Maribel Avelis. Thank you to the BMM Philippine Graphic team, to Mr. Odi Garcia, to Tita Susie Cruz, to my mom who's watching. Thank you. To Roy Paul Bordales. Okay. So to formally end our webinar, here's our publisher once more, Mr. T. Anthony C. Cabangon.
Maraming salamat po sa it's been a very informative and we learned a lot by sharing us your various programs, your problems and solutions and experiences. And of course, kudos again to Mayor Vincent Soriano, Municipality of Pakil, big success story, and may other LGUs emulate with what you have done for your municipality. And next year po sana ma-invite namin po ulit kayo sa ganitong webinar and you may also give us an update ito po ang nangyari since our last webinar. Maraming salamat po sa inyo.
Okay, thank you. Before we go, let's announce the winners of our contest. For question 1, when is World Water Day? The answer is March 22. Congratulations to Janine Faminial. Sorry. Okay. Second question, what does NWRB stand for? It's National Water Resources Board. Congratulations to Jeremy John Borlonga. Question number 3, Mayor Vincent Soriano is the mayor of what town in Laguna? The answer is Pakil, Laguna, and congratulations to Josephine of Julio. Thank you to DOSTP Shared, Local Asia, and Kalumpit Water District for making this webinar possible. I would like to thank the following for their support: Ed, Philip, Carlo, April for running the show behind the scenes. To Boss Anton, thank you for being here again. To Dennis, Charm, Queenie, Maribel, Carlo, to the PM team. And then until our next webinar, this has been your host, Andrew De La Cruz. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you po.
Bye.
Bye-bye po.
Thank you.